All right, good evening. This weekend's video notes is under the topic of cell transport, which is in chapter 7.3 in your text. And the essential question is, how do molecules move in and out of a cell passively? So thinking about this word passive, it's not needing any energy, not needing anything to force it to happen. It's happening passively. So with this transport, we're talking about how molecules move in and out of the cell. So the organelle involved is the cell membrane. One thing to mention with these notes, if you see anything highlighted, that's a good indicator that that's an important piece to write down in your notes. Anything that isn't highlighted is just extra stuff, so that does not need to get in your notes. Okay, so back to the notes. The cell membrane is the organelle involved with letting things in and out of the cell. So this membrane is made out of two layers of these lipids called phospholipids, and you can see that down here in this image. You can also see these little blue pieces in here too. Those are channel proteins, and what they help do is they help larger molecules go in and out of the cell. They kind of act like doorways. So let's take a closer look at that organelle, the cell membrane. It's made out of this layer called a phospholipid bilayer. So it's a type of lipid that has a phosphorus atom in it. That's not important, but what's important is that it has, there's two pieces to this molecule, a hydrophilic end and a hydrophobic end. So the hydrophilic end of the molecule is attracted to water, water, philic meaning loving. So it is attracted to the water outside and inside the cell, and so that part of the molecule faces towards the water. And the hydrophobic end is water fearing, and it just means it's not attracted to the water, so it's going to face inwards. And so this is how that lipid bilayer has formed within cells, is because of this property. So within the cell membrane, we call the cell membrane selectively permeable. So that means only certain types of things can go in and out of the cell, permeate through the cell. So let's think about it. Cells are living and they need to maintain homeostasis. They need to maintain that internal environment. So that means nutrients need to be able to enter the cell and leave the cell. And so then how do molecules actually go through this cell membrane? So there's a couple ways, but we are only going to focus on these first two here. So there's a couple ways that they can go through, either with or without energy, which is called passive transport, or active transport, which is requiring energy. This part down here, this is what we'll learn next week. Tonight we're just going to focus on these two processes that don't require energy, called simple diffusion and facilitated diffusion. And then on Monday, we'll learn about osmosis. Okay, so passive transport. Let's take a look. Also called simple diffusion. This is with small molecules only, and they are just moving from areas of high concentration to areas of low concentration. And this is a natural process because molecules are constantly moving and colliding with each other, so it's just a natural process for these things to eventually diffuse out from an area of high concentration to low concentration. Energy is not needed for this to happen. And so some examples of molecules that do simple diffusion in and out of a cell are oxygen and carbon dioxide, some of these smaller molecules. So let's take a look at this picture here. We've got, let's say, oxygen up here, and it's going to simply diffuse into the cell until it becomes even on both outside and inside of the cell. Once it's even, the molecules do still move in and out of the cell because molecules are constantly moving and colliding with each other, but they're just doing it at equal rates. And so up here is always going to be as equal as down here. Now, if there's molecules that are bigger, too big to just diffuse through the membrane, it's going to get help with channel proteins. So this is called facilitated diffusion. So thinking about the word facilitate, to help. These channel proteins are helping these larger molecules across the membrane. And so larger molecules like proteins and sugars rely on this to get into the cell and out of the cell. And so you can see There's no energy needed. It's still going from an area of high concentration to low concentration, but instead of going through the membrane, it's going through these little protein channels that kind of act like doorways in and out of the cell. All right, so we're done. So don't forget, after you're done taking notes, to go back and come up with your 2 questions in summary. And then you also need to answer the questions on the Google form. The 2 are, what are the similarities and differences between simple and facilitated diffusion? And then what type of molecules gets transported via facilitated diffusion? All right, I'll see you on Monday.